Very fascinating, especially about Marjorie and Candace, is that they are not just.
Whoa, we don't have anything to do with your crazy foreign ass.
The other ones that you mentioned, where they're saying this action is wrong.
They say that you can judge someone by their 5 closest friends. You're just kind of going to be the average of your 5 closest friends. The people you choose to hang out with is a reflection of you. The people that want to embrace you is a tell on who you are exactly. And it's critical to judge a tree by its fruit. We've been noticing some of the fruit is rotten in the influencer class that have turned on President Trump, and we just feel like it's our obligation to call it out. And something hit my timeline that really disturbed me, and I got to bring it to your attention. Ilhan Omar is now embracing Marjorie Taylor Greene. Candace Owens. Oof. What is this? I got to tell you, man, if your wife starts hanging out with a bunch of divorced ladies, you're in trouble. And speaking of very unhappy divorced ladies, Marjorie Taylor Greene's collapse has been biblical and needs to be studied. This is really something else. So Ilhan Omar is saying now that Marjorie Taylor Greene and her need to come together and form some type of political movement with Candace Owens. Okay. It's going to be tough, because if you want to look at Ilhan Omar's background, not the person that you should want to be on your side. Again, I say it all the time. The Republican Party isn't perfect. The Republican Party is rage-inducing at times. But the Democrat Party is not it. This is not your home. Okay? Ilhan Omar. What is an Ilhan Omar? Well, she's somebody who openly celebrated September 11th and said some people did something and just kind of brushed it off. She liked it. She actually argued on behalf of ISIS members in her district. Her district is filled with Somalis. She's a Somali scammer herself. She went from a $15,000 or $50,000 net worth to a $30 million net worth. No explanation for that, by the way. Her scumbag, dirtbag husband is the one who's ran the fake wineries, runs the fake consulting firm, is able to smuggle all of the cash in the fraud, Somali-linked fraud. Where do you think the money's going, right? When Ilhan Omar writes these fraud bills, she, of course, married her brother. She engaged in immigration fraud. And, well, she's a great representative from Somalia because she's a total scammer. She's one of the worst, nastiest people in Congress. And actually, there was a time when Marjorie Taylor Greene was calling out Ilhan Omar, just to show you exactly how transactional this all is. But, you know, those times are done now because, you know, calling out Ilhan Omar on the left doesn't get you booked on The View and CNN. So here's Ilhan Omar on a recent podcast saying, no, it is totally time to embrace Marjorie Taylor Greene and Candace and everybody who's turned on
that
Trump.
We can trust to safeguard what is good about our country.
A Marxist.
And I believe the thing that has been very fascinating, especially about Marjorie and Candace, is that they are not just coming out like the other ones that you'd mentioned, where they're saying this action is wrong, right? They're saying, I am done with you.
Yeah, it's like a values bait. Like,
right.
This guy is bad. Not like this policy is bad.
Right. And I think that we should give them credit for that. The fact that they've had this wake-up call to finally seeing this con man, this corrupt, chaotic man for what he is. The fact that they understand that he never really had any principles outside of uplifting his ego. They finally understand that his run for the presidency has never really been about America or, you know, keeping with the traditions of what it means to be a president of the United States and moving this country forward.
Yeah.
It was always about, how do I enrich myself? It was always about a grievance politics, or he was upset that Obama was mocking him.
How do I enrich myself? Have you ever studied Ilhan Omar's winery? You know, she calls Trump a con man. Ilhan Omar has a fake winery It's not real. It's not in business. She claims it's worth $5 million. It's not. I called the numbers. I went viral by just going to Google Maps and showing people this ain't real. Why is nobody investigating this? Well, it turns out maybe Ilhan Omar will be investigated. Vice President tells me that she's committed immigration fraud. But she's here calling Trump a fraud. She's here claiming that Trump's only doing this to enrich himself. Yet her net worth has gone up to $30 million. Goodness gracious. Omar requests financial records of companies linked to Ilhan Omar's husband. Oof. Okay, Ilhan Omar said she found Marjorie Taylor Greene before she left Congress and thanked her for her willingness to speak up and to have a responsibility to end financial and political support for Israel.
To speak up about what the people in Gaza have experienced and what our tax dollars have allowed to take place, as we all worked really hard to say that we have a responsibility to end this genocide and to end our financial and political support for Israel and the impunity that we have constantly provided for them.
Everybody's got their own take on these issues. But I got to tell you, man, I'm not liking the coalition that I'm seeing built here. Not that anybody on the right like trusts or cares about Marjorie Taylor Greene anymore. It's like so openly and grotesquely transactional. Was such just a repulsive turn from going from Trump was right about everything. Trump was right about everything to 25th Amendment. This was in the time span of a year. We all know women like this. This is in the time span of a year, right? This is sociopathic. You can disagree with Trump on stuff. I do. You can disagree with the administration. I do. I say so on the channel. I have a list. So like it is what it is. Nobody's perfect. But to do this, you know, is like it deserved to be called out. It's totally and completely pathological. Marjorie Taylor Greene running to the View. I find this so remarkable. So Ilhan Omar may say that, but she would immediately put Marjorie Taylor Greene in a camp if given the opportunity, right? So like it's different for these people. And we just watched it happen with the View. The View was on like praising Marjorie Taylor Greene.
They say that you're slamming Republicans too much. Well, you're taking my job.
You know, and then what happens the next day? You know, they're all like loving and embracing Marjorie Taylor Greene. And then the next day, The View savagely attacks Marjorie Taylor Greene. And then turns against her and attacks her and says, screw this lady. That's the way they look at you. They'll never view you as one of them. This is tribal. Like it's important to understand that politics is tribal and that there is legitimate bridges that can be built with people like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK, who I think have done incredible jobs in the Trump administration. But when you are talking about the hardened woke left, it doesn't matter how much you grovel and beg and worship and kiss their feet. That boot will be used to crush you, even if you're licking it. Because you committed the mortal sin of not being one of them. The fact that you voted for Trump one time will be enough. And so, don't trust the olive branches from people like Ilhan Omar. She already comes from a family of war criminals. Hopefully she's going back, but who knows? What the vice president tells me, and this is the side that I'm on, deport Ilhan Omar. That's my side, right? I don't want Ilhan Omar's praise. I will never accept it. But the side I'm on is with the vice president. I'm asking him about Ilhan Omar, and he's like, she committed criminal immigration fraud and deserves to be kicked out of America. Great. Here we go.
Talk about Ilhan Omar and Tim Walz.
Exactly.
And obviously, Ilhan Omar, the president and the White House have been out saying that she married her brother, that there is immigration fraud going on here. These are deportable denaturalization offenses. Can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, so we actually think that Ilhan Omar definitely committed immigration fraud against the United States of America. And I talked to Stephen Miller about this actually recently. We're trying to look at what the remedies are. That's the thing that we're trying to figure out is what are the legal remedies now that we know that she's committed immigration fraud? How do you go after her? How do you investigate her? How do you actually do the thing? How do you build the case necessary to get some justice for the American people? There's a related issue, Benny, which is she has been at the center of a lot of the worst fraudsters in the Somalian community. So do I know that Ilhan Omar was aware that the Quality Leering Center was defrauding the American people? I'm not certain of it, but we at least need to investigate it, because if people can commit wrongdoing without even the fear that they're going to be found out, that's a fundamental problem. So I'm worried about the immigration fraud. I'm also worried about what did Ilhan Omar know about what was happening in the Somali community, and why was nobody looking into it until, frankly, Donald Trump came along?